Thank you very much. There are certain gaps I need to fill in before I really go into Freetown, Sierra Leone. There are certain gaps in Monrovia that I need to fill in. I remember that when I was on break. I received a call during the war before we went to Sierra Leone. I received a call from the Chief of Staff, General Henry Duba. He called me into the Ministry of Defense. I went to his office and he said to me, he said, Bowier, I do not know what you did to the president, but he told us not to protect you. I repeat, he said, Bowier, I do not know what you did to the president, but he told us not to protect you. All the other ministers we assigned MPs, some people got riot squad police people, some people got all kinds of people, MPs. And then besides that, then he named some of my friends in the cabinet who have been given Uzi machine guns. One of them was given 18 round machine pistol that took 18 rounds. He said, but I don't know what happened, but the chief said, when I protect you. So, I know you very well. I know you have done your best. You haven't done anything wrong. So, my heart can't be satisfied to see you on the TV every day. You stay talking, and the man said, when I protect you, I don't know what happened. But I got to follow his directive. So, officially, we cannot protect you. He said, but I know your mom. I know you're your mom's only child. I am my mom's only child. So, what I want to do for you, he opened his drawer, he took up a silver pistol. He said, this is my personal weapon. I want to give this to you to protect yourself, because you are doing well to defend this government. But I don't know why they say we shouldn't protect you. So the entire joint security has been told that we should not protect you. He said, did you ever tell the president that you didn't want bodyguard because you're a street boy, you can protect yourself? I said, yes. He said, well, that's what he told the other day. He said, any man boasting, say he's a street boy, he can protect himself, so let him protect himself. You don't protect him. So I said, well, they wanted to give me bodyguard. I told them I did not need bodyguards. I was not going to do anything wrong for anybody to harm me. And when I do not have bodyguard, I will behave myself better. Because I know if I don't behave myself, somebody will slap me in the street. So he said, well, that what happened. So he opened the bag, showed me the pistol, he gave me, the pistol was loaded, and he gave me a few rounds of ammunition and said, that the best I can do, go protect yourself. I said, okay. I left and carried the pistol home, put it down. I've not handled weapons except when we're doing ROTC and we're drilling with these fake guns. My father told me never to join the army. He was in the army some time ago. My uncle James Levi Tobias Bowier Sr. was in the army for more than 30 years. He was paymaster of the army for more than 20 years before the coup. And he was alive when the coup came, and not one soldier in this country touched him because he never embezzled their money. Never. If he had taken 1 cent of those soldiers' money, he would not have lived to tell the story. He would have been gone April 12th. But he lived until 1988 when he died peacefully in Kennedy Hospital. And the military, by that time it was a civilian government now, but comprising military people, tendered him a state funeral. My father told me, he said, boy, Bowier family got no bad record in this country. We are not rogues, we are not liars. We got big mouth and that's all, but we're not bad people. So please don't spoil our name. So I took the gun from the chief of staff, went home, and in about 2 weeks, the gun was staying home. I didn't carry it in my car with me, I didn't carry it anywhere. So I just got fed up with this gun. Because if the word was that I should not be protected, and if by some stroke of fortune or fate, they raided my house and found a gun, I could be charged with planning something. So I called somebody who is another witness that is still alive. All my witnesses, Mr. Chairman, they just refuse to die. I called Julia Mensah. Julia Mensah was an employee of the Ministry of Information. The last time I located her, she had a restaurant behind the insurance company that is near the Catholic Hospital Junction. I'm sure she can be found whenever you look for her. She is a good friend of Wesley Dennis, who works with the Maritime Bureau. So call her and ask her if I am lying. I called Mrs. Julia Mensah to my office and said, I have an assignment for you. And I opened the bag and showed her the silver pistol with the rounds of ammunition, put it back in the bag, wrapped them up well, and said, I want you to take this to the Chief of Staff, General Duba. Tell him I said, thank you very much for this pistol, but I haven't used it. I have no desire to use it, and even if somebody comes to attack me, I will not have the courage to shoot it. So take it back to him, tell him I said thank you very much, but God will protect me through this war. Since it has been declared that I should not be protected by the state that I was talking for, God will protect me. Isn't that what the Bible means, that when your father and your mother forsake you, then the Lord will take you up? When your father and your mother forsake you, the Lord will take you up. So I was glad the state declared that I shouldn't be protected. So what do you think God will do to a child whose birth he is foretold? What do you think he will do? Sit down in heaven and allow all kind of foolishness to happen on earth? No, he gave his angel charge over me to bear me, also I do not dash my foot against stones. So I sent the gun back. And Julia Mensah took it back to General Duba. General Duba is here. Ask him. If all these things I'm saying, I'm just talking you to be a big star, go ask him. Right after that, I left for Freetown, Sierra Leone. The conference started in the United States Information Center or Service in Freetown, Sierra Leone. Presided over by the Council of Churches, the Interfaith Mediation Committee. Both sides, the MPFL and the government of Liberia, talked about the conditions under which we could have a ceasefire. The MPFL people said that there will be no ceasefire until President Doe left, at least until he left the mansion and gave up the presidency. They will have no ceasefire. And we pleaded with them and they said, no, young man, there we know him. Soon we said ceasefire, you're going to bring in more guns to come and destroy us. So we'll not have a ceasefire. So we say, okay, what conditions can we have that will create the occasion for a ceasefire? They proposed that President Doe should step down. hand over to somebody in the armed forces of Liberia who they already had earmarked and who will turn over to the Speaker of the House, and then the Speaker of the House shortly will turn over to Taylor. So, if not, they will fight to the end. Then Chicken Scott asked Thomas, who were you? He said, down, this is our country we're talking about here. You keep saying you will fight to the end, you will fight to the end, you do this, you do that. He said, if you got rats in your kitchen top eating up your rice, and you see there's a need to destroy that rat in order to stop it from eating the rice, would you burn the whole kitchen down just to catch one rat? Who will you say will burn the kitchen down to catch this rat? That was his answer. But you see, Bowier at that time was very nervous. When he sat at the table to talk with us all day long, his knees would be shaking back and forth all day long. And we had studied our sociology and other things, and we knew that he was nervous, but he had to put up a show, a brave front. So we had other discussions in the conference room and outside the conference room. And the end of those discussions were that we should come to President Doe and they should go to the Chairman Taylor or the President Taylor at that time and tell them what was obtaining in the meeting. Before we left, Mr. Samuel Doe said he made only one wish, that we should tell Doe something for him. And he said, tell Doe that I am Samuel Doe and he is I'm Samuel Doe and he is Samuel Doe. Tell him when the coup occurred, we were best of friends. Tell him I am the one who went around with him and taking him to my girlfriend's place and she cooking food and we were eating together and sleeping together. Tell him that. Tell him he was my friend and I turned against him because people lied on me and said I was involved in some plot to overthrow him. I was in the hospital. I had undergone surgery for piles. They had just treated me, the wounds were there, I had not healed, I was on the bed with tubes in me. And those sent the soldiers to arrest me on my hospital bed. He said, tell him that's why I turned against him. And I will fight him to the end. He said, I just want to warn all of you who came to talk for Doe, that Doe doesn't care about you. He said, right now as you are talking to us, we are monitoring the movement of arms from Monrovia to Tucson, where he is stockpiling the arms, so that in case of anything, you will fly from Tucson to Tucson and fight from there. And where will your counters be? So when you meet him, tell him what I said. So all of us came to Monrovia under consultation. Jangaba, Chicken Scott, Dr. Tape, everybody we came. Went to the mansion, met with Doe. And they told him all about what was going on in the negotiation and everything. And because I was not a chairperson, I was sitting down listening to how the conversation would end, and it looked like nobody remembered what Doe said. Either they didn't remember or nobody wanted to say what Doe said. So I said, Mr. President, before we leave, I got something to tell you. You know, my big mouth open again. He said, what's that? I said, Samuel Doe gave us a message for you. He said, As Samuel Doe said, when the coup came, you were good friends. He said yes. That you used to hang out, drink together, go to your girlfriend place, cook food, sleep together, everything. He said yes. Samuel Doe told me to tell you that he's fighting you today because you follow the lies of people who say he wanted to overthrow you. And you arrested him on his hospital bed right after he took surgery for bowels and put him in jail when he had not even healed. He said, that's why he's fighting you. And he'll fight you to the end. And he just looked at me. And I said, he told us something else. And he said, what's that? Samuel Doe told us that while we are here negotiating for you, you are flying guns to Tucson to fortify your own place while our various counties are left vulnerable to the rebels. Then Red he said, Bowier, what do you want me to do? Huh? What do you want me to do? That your bastard put the people key to kill? And that what crime put the key to kill? What do you want me to do? So the meeting ended. Meeting ended. So what Doe said was true based on his reaction. I'm saying this to just tell you that some of us were fighting from within, trying to bring sanity to this thing. People outside who didn't know, when I blast inside and do everything, I come outside, and the press come to me, will Doe resign? Will Doe resign? And I remember I used to tell them, I have been authorized to advise that President Doe will not resign. But by that time, I'm feeling blasting inside. But my job as a damage control person is to tell you that Doe will not resign. Why? Because he said he will not resign. I don't have to tell you I just got through blasting him. That's not my job. My job is to tell you I've been authorized to advise that Doe will not resign. Whatever blasting I did inside is the inside job. And that's what ministers should learn to do. If you got something to tell the president to her face. When you come outside, you close rank and protect the system. It is done all over the world. So we're in Freetown, sir. The religious leaders try to talk us into making peace and doing this and doing that. We started June 10. By June 16, the day that we were supposed to sign the peace agreement, we came back to Freetown, talk. People were crying on all sides, and they brought in Dr. Edward Wilmot Blything III. He asked permission to come and address us. Edward Wilmot Blything is a descendant of Wilmot Blything, a black spokesman who was Liberia's first ambassador to any country in the world. When he volunteered to pay his own way and pay his own money and maintain himself in Britain because he said black people should have a voice. The first ambassador abroad paid his own money, paid himself to represent Liberia. And so when I hear foreign service officers quarreling about the hardship they're going through, I tell them that you are just inheriting what Blything planted. He went on a volunteer mission. The government still thinks that people should volunteer to be in the foreign service. I was there for 6 months, they didn't pay me. They were part of the Blything heritage. But Blything was, this Blything who met us in Freetown, was Sierra Leonean ambassador to the Soviet Union. He had retired. He was in Freetown. His mother came from Clay Ashland, related to the Dixon family in Clay Ashland. And he came there and told us that he was from Liberia. He had a Liberian heritage. As you know, when they killed E.J. Roy, Blything had to run away from Liberia because the mulattoes were chasing out all of the black people who were intellectuals, and Blything had to escape. He went to Freetown. And he had this son who had this planning. But this old man, he was more than 70 years old when he appealed to the Interfaith Mediation Committee to come and talk to us in Freetown. The old man came and begged and told us the history of Liberia, the background to all this thing, how Liberia was the first experiment in democracy in Africa, and how our detractors who now want us to succeed because they say black people can't govern themselves. He told us all kinds of things. He talked and talked and talked and begged us to please reconcile. We should not fight. We should not destroy this country. He begged and begged and begged, and Tom, will you just start laughing? The old man talked and talked and talked and talked and talked until they had to come and say it's time for him to go. And he did something that really left on my mind. The woman walked backwards out of the meeting. Confinement was there, he was presiding. That woman walked backwards out of the meeting. And as we were leaving, he kept repeating, "My children, you don't make us shame. My children, don't make us shame. My children, don't make us shame," as we were going. That's how he went and the door closed. When the door closed, Thomas, will you bust up in laughter and say, "Bowier, I thought you said your man, your person, old man, they're going to cry on us. Why don't let us go back to Maria like fight? Because we'll take your hair for a football." That's what he told me right in that room. I looked at him and I knew that something was wrong with Tom. He had forgotten his culture, that he's supposed to respect old people. You don't laugh at them when they talk to you. We agreed that we have a ceasefire. The interfaith, for the first time, I think the press should understand all of this international intrigue. The Interfaith Mediation Committee talked us into agreeing to have a ceasefire. We agreed that we were going to have a ceasefire. The Doe government, the MPLF-FL movement agreed that we have a ceasefire. We agreed that we have a government later on that will comprise both people from Taylor side and Doe side. And we agreed that our government would be called the Interim Government of National Unity. So when you heard about our IGNU coming later, it was not from the Banjul Conference. It was what happened at the Freetown Conference, that somebody from the Banjul Conference took from the Freetown Conference took to Banjul, and I will get to that story just now. So those people who came here and called and said IGNU, it was not their original idea. That's an idea that they should pay us for. Because Doki and I sat down and drafted the document with the coaching of Dr. Tappet. Let me go on with the story. We agreed to have a ceasefire and everything, and we were all happy. This was June 16, 1990. Doki was appointed by the MPFL to go and draft the ceasefire agreement. I was appointed from the Liberian government side to go and draft the ceasefire agreement. And we agreed that we'll go for lunch. While we're at lunch, we'll draft the agreement, very brief paper. And after lunch, we'll sign the agreement, announce that we have declared ceasefire, and announced that the formation of an interim government of national unity was in the making. Sheikh Kafuma Kona is my witness. Reverend Levy Moulton is my witness. Canon Budge's car is my witness. Archbishop Michael Francis is my witness. Some other people that I don't know. Yeah, Bishop Dix of the Lutheran Church is my witness. He was there. We agreed, a bunch of Liberian people sitting in the USIS auditorium in Freetown, Sierra Leone, arranged the first peace talk, and we concluded that we should start fighting. No foreign intervention at that point in time. Liberians agreed that we'll stop fighting. The Taylor side agreed, the Doe side agreed. Doki was appointed to represent the Taylor side to write a ceasefire agreement June 16, 1990. Bowier was appointed from the Doe side to draft that agreement. We went for lunch. To come back to sign the agreement, something happened during lunch. All kinds of things happened during lunchtime. But something happened on that day. When we got into the room to draft this ceasefire agreement, Mr. Doki started crying. And I couldn't get him to stop crying for us to start writing this document. I said, but Doki, what's wrong? What are you crying for, my man? We all agreed that we're going to ceasefire and start something new. He said, oh, Bowier, you know what I'm crying for. He said, the way the thing happened, they're not the way we planned it. And he kept crying. I said, Doki, okay, what did you all plan and what is happening? He said, but you just being Morocco, you haven't been around the country? He said, do you know I just left Bassa? Do you know I just left Buchanan? Do you know the dogs eating the dead body of your people in Buchanan? Do you know that? He said, that's not what we planned. That's not what we planned. He started crying. Doki started crying that the dogs were eating the flesh of human beings in the street of Buchanan, Grand Bassa County. So I said, okay, Doki, just calm down. Let's write this paper. Because if you continue to cry, how will write a paper? It will soon be lunchtime, it will soon be over. While Doki was still crying, somebody knocked on the door. So Doki told me not to open the door until he wiped his eyes and all. You know, there are times a man got to be a man. You know, you cry, but you got to wipe your eyes and pretend like you're big and bad. And it was this boy, Prince Barkley, who was on the NPFL side. Prince Barkley knocked the door and said, open the door, this is Prince. So Doki said, don't open the door. Don't open the door. I said, Prince, we're coming, we're working here, don't disturb us. I was doing all that to give Doki a chance to wipe his face. So Doki wiped his face and acted like he was big and bad. Then I opened the door. And Prince Barkley said, Doki, we want to see you. Who you want to see you? We got word from the chief. Let's go talk. He was referring to Taylor. So Doki left the room. I was there trying to draft the agreement so when Doki come we could look at it together. Doki never returned to the room. After lunch, I went into the hall. Doki was seated with his people. It was clear that he was not going to talk to me anymore. So he didn't talk to me. He sat on his side, I sat on my side. Then you got up and said, well, just want to tell you that we're not going to sign a peace agreement. No ceasefire agreement. Much to our disappointment, we all agreed we signed the ceasefire agreement. Then he got up and said, we're not signing it. We're not signing it until Doe leave. And we'll fight to the last man. And this and this and this and this. When Bowier started talking, I took up my pen and paper and I started writing. I knew the end was in sight. I started writing. When I got through writing, I called somebody from USIS, a Sierra Leone lady working there, and I gave it to her. I said, please photocopy this, make enough copies for everybody here. She brought it, and I just circulated it among all the people. But let me tell you, when we left, back up, because there's a gap in the story. Why the way you act the way he acted? When we agreed to have the ceasefire and Doki was appointed to represent his side, I was appointed to represent my side. When we came out of the auditorium of the USIS in Freetown and we got outside in the hallway, Mr. Charles Gurney, G-U-R-N-E-Y, the embassy of the United States in Mamba Point can help you to locate this gentleman to see whether I'm lying. Charles Gurney, he was the political officer at the embassy of Liberia, of the United States in Liberia. He followed us to Freetown, Sierra Leone. Sheikh Kafuma Kone is my witness. Margaret Francis my witness. Bishop Dix was there. Moulton was there. Bush's car was there. All these people were there. Jenkins Scott was there. Everybody. Soon we came out of the hall. This official of the U.S. Embassy ran to Tom. Who are you? He said, Tom, what's the deal? Tom Woyu said, well, we have decided we're going to have a ceasefire because, you know, we need to provide a corridor for the Red Cross and other people to go and tend to our people. We are all the same. We're tired of killing our people. It's time for us to reconcile and build our country. He was very stunned. This U.S. Embassy official was very stunned, surprised, disgusted, angry. He said, Tom, do you know what you are doing? Do you know what you are doing? You don't have to negotiate with these people, and you're referring to the government delegation. You don't have to negotiate with these people. You have the military advantage. What are you doing, Tom? What are you doing? You have the military advantage. It was not a secret talk. He was shouting. Sheikh Kafuma Kone is on this commission, and he was present. You have the military advantage. You don't have to negotiate with these people. A bunch of Liberians agreed that we'll stop killing our people, we'll go and negotiate and solve our problems. But we're told by powerful, invisible people that one side had a military advantage. In America, we're told that one side had bought superior weapons and they had the upper hand. And 1/4 of our population will be wiped away. In Freetown, they were told they had a military advantage. So it was not surprising that Prince Barclay of the NPFL came and took him out of that room while we're drafting the peace agreement June 16, 1990. Why am I telling you these things? It's because if you leave Liberians alone to solve their problems, they will be solved. But because we got to follow all these NGO money, and all kind of money, they tell us what to do, we do it, and while we kill ourselves up, they steal our gold, diamond, timber, rubber, and everything and ship it out of here. And we stay here, ignorant people, sick all the time, the mosquito biting us, everything happening. We can't grow rice. We're in the street talking about rice, blaming everybody for it. And then riding up and down in air-conditioned cars, going somewhere for 6 weeks to de-dramatize. And the people of Liberia suffer. Why? Because Liberian people do not hold together. So Charles Gurney of the U.S. Embassy at Mamba Point told Tom Woyu in the presence of myself, the Liberian delegation, the Charles Taylor delegation, and the Interfaith Mediation Committee, that Woyu should not accept a ceasefire because Taylor had the military advantage. You want to know who did what? I do not know. I will just tell you the story. You go home and ask your grandma to put it together. So I wrote that letter. The woman went and photocopied it and brought copies. Sheikh Kafuma Kone is right here. I gave him his copy that day in that meeting before the meeting was over. In my handwriting, I gave them that copy. Later on, I distributed it all over. And it was printed in the Diaspora Magazine, Volume 2, January 1991, edited by Reginald Goodrich. I will read what I wrote on that day. I am now reading. It is entitled, Pulling Together. Pulling Together. An appeal. Fellow negotiators, in June 1847, going back to history again, 11 men from the then 3 counties of Liberia, Monserrado, Bassa, and Sino, came under the roof of a church, Providence Baptist Church, to establish the Republic of Liberia, which was formally proclaimed on July 26, 1847 as a sovereign, free and independent state. In June 1990, 11 men meeting under the umbrella of Liberia's religious leaders, Christians and Muslims, are deciding the fate of a nation on the brink of disaster. 11 men in 1847 voted to establish the Republic of Liberia. Will 11 men representing the government of Liberia and the National Patriotic Front of Liberia toll Liberia's death knell? Will the future of Liberia be sacrificed on the altar of power? Do the Liberian people deserve this? As the late President William V.S. Tubman told a conference of the OAU in Accra, Ghana in April 1958, let us think like men of action and act like men of thought. Hopefully, J. Emmanuel Bowier, Freetown, Sierra Leone, June 16, 1990. When OAU declared that when I have a ceasefire, I start writing, and that was 10 over. Will Liberia be sacrificed on the altar of power? Will we destroy this country because of power? Do the Liberian people deserve this, to suffer and die because a few people want power? June 16, I wrote this. And I said Liberia was on the brink of disaster. Liberia had not been destroyed yet. But, oh, beautiful for patriots' dream that sees beyond the years. I could see beyond the years. I could see the destruction. Nobody could see it. One was begging people not to destroy this country. They said I was talking for Doe. And I told you that Doe would be the last to get hungry. People will be going to the farm and they will get ambushed. Will be hungry. The water will dry up. There will be no electricity. People will suffer and die from hunger. They said we're talking for Doe. I have all that on cassette recording. Today I have it somewhere in the world. Everybody thought that Bowier was a stupid boy. But when I am commanded to say something, I say it. So this is what I told them that day. Will we sacrifice Liberia on the altar of power? So we came outside. The American man talked to OAU. Said you got a military advantage. You don't have to deal with these people. Deal with them militarily. OAU talked to his boss. They pulled up and went back. But before they went back, we had already laid out the design for an interim government of national unity. And the Interfaith Mediation Committee is my witness because they have that document. Long before they went to Banjul to elect Sawyer, there was a proposal for an interim government of national unity. That's the history. That thing broke down.
Thank you.
The Liberian delegation met. No, I'm staying here. I beg you, you gotta give me a chance. I'm going to the meeting now. I beg you, look, I'm an old man, but I like to talk and I gotta explain this thing. I cannot stop it halfway. You know how many lecturers follow me all around to my house wanting to know what happened in Liberia? They gotta know. I gotta talk. And as I said, we had a meeting. And you asked me to talk about Freetown. I'm talking about Freetown. We had a meeting of the Liberian delegation. Tangaba, Jangaba, all these people. And we said, look, it is time to go to Monrovia and tell President Doe that this thing will not work. He should please leave. We had that meeting because Abbas Bundu, the Secretary General of the ECOWAS at that time, came to us and told us that President Babangida has sent him to Liberia to negotiate with Doe about how to help stop the war, and that Bundu had gone back to President Babangida and told Babangida that there no need to continue to support Doe because Doe had gone crazy. That was a war propaganda. That Doe had gone crazy. He had smoked so much dope in the mansion and he was gone crazy. When he speaks, he was incoherent. Ask Jenkins Scott, ask the other people on the delegation. That is what Abbas Bunu told us. And with that in mind, ECOWAS wanted us in Freetown. Mr. Tangaba Jangaba, President pro tempore of the Senate, was then looked at as the logical successor to Doe and the person with the most power at that point in time, because as far as they're concerned, the Doe government had collapsed because Bunu said Doe had gone somewhere and his mind was absent. Okay, so they wanted Jangaba to look at himself as the power broker, and with that they wanted Jangaba to let Jenkins Scott draft a statement stating that Doe was incapacitated and could no longer be head of state. And with that, then ECOWAS will step in and call for immediate fresh election. We got to tell you the story, man. You don't call me to a place and you want to humbug me. Nobody will humbug me. So, Jangaba met with us. We decided to send a group to Monrovia to talk to Doe. They said, who will carry the message to Doe? We drafted a letter to Doe telling him we wanted to negotiate his terms of resignation. We wanted to negotiate his asylum and everything. So they said, Bala, you speak Crown. So go to Doe, sit down and don't talk English. Talk this thing in Crown. Let him know the game is over, so that he can leave. Let there be peace, because the MPFL boys are prepared to run down Monrovia. Babala said, yes, I would love to go, but you all remember when Oscar Kuya and I told Doe to let us follow some constitutional thing in order to bring this whole crisis to an end. Doe got vexed with us and he told me and Oscar never to go to the mansion unless he invites us there. We said, yes, we remember. He said, but then I'm not going to do. He didn't invite me. Why am I going to show up? The second thing is that if I show up to tell him that he got to leave, that's worse. So I can't go. So, okay. Jenkins Scott, second man, you are the legal advisor to Doe. You are major in the armed forces of Liberia, Minister of Justice. Go and convince your man to leave. You know, Jenkins speaking American parlance, you know, I can't do that. I can't do that. I'm a major in the armed forces of Liberia. I cannot go and tell my commander-in-chief to resign. Therefore, I cannot go. So Jenkins Scott could not go because he couldn't tell Doe to resign because he was major and Doe was commander-in-chief. So they said, okay, but then let Dr. Tappet, Dr. James T. Tappet, director of the Babangida School of International Studies. You are Doe's teacher, teaching him international relations. You go now and tell your student the game is over. Convince him to leave. Dr. Tappet said, I was sent here as a consultant to the delegation. The role of a consultant is to advise you, not to go and make this kind of decision. Therefore, I cannot go. So, okay, then why do we let the President pro tempore of the Liberian Senate, Tangaba Jangaba, go back to Doe with his authority as President of the Liberian Senate? Everybody has scattered from Monrovia. He still has this authority to go to Doe and talk to him that the legislature now like calling on the President to resign. So Jangaba, you go. Jangaba said, no, he can't go. So why? He said because ECOWAS is here negotiating. the Interfaith Mediation Committee is here, and all these people are coming around. He, as head of the delegation, has to be there to negotiate with these people. Then Jangaba said, but why Puya can't go? Then I said, why should I go? He said, but Puya, you always telling the people what Doe say. So now time for you to go tell Doe what the people say. So you are going to Monrovia. I said, okay, I'm going. I mean, I was not scared. I don't know why I didn't get scared, but I just said, okay, I'll go. Prepare the letter, I'll go. So they prepared the letter that Doe should give us the authority to negotiate his resignation and all of that. While we're talking, we receive word from the Guinean embassy that the Guinean ambassador wanted to see the delegation urgently. Now I want you to listen to this keenly, because some people came and said, well, we brought the Guineans, for April 14, I will go to that one later on, but some people wanted to say that they brought a Guinean troop here during they negotiated for some Guinean troop. But the Guinean ambassador called upon Jangaba and ourselves and said, I have a message from my president, the same president that now contact. He wants to come and help the government to put down this rebellion, to stop this war. He is aware that there is a treaty between Guinea and Liberia, a mutual defense treaty or pact, and this pact can be invoked by any side, but it has to be the side that is at a disadvantage. So since Liberia is experiencing war, the Guinean president will be happy if the Liberian government will invoke this treaty, so that Guinean soldiers will come and intervene. And he told us, we have 5,000 troops ready to land at Sprixby Field today. That was June 1990. The only thing we want is a request from President Doe, a formal request from President Doe. But my president will have me inform you that the ambassador to Guinea, who is currently in Liberia, not when I say currently, I mean June 1990, okay? The ambassador of Guinea in Liberia, June 1990, is not from the same tribe as the president of Guinea. And we have suspected that he has been involved in all kinds of things that are not in the best interest of the president of Guinea. Therefore, Doe should not and never send any messages through this man to the president of Guinea. So this request for the 5,000 troops to land at Sprixby Field any hour after we receive the request should be sent through the embassy in Sierra Leone and not the embassy in Liberia. Is that clear? We told him, yes, it's clear. So now I was coming to tell Doe to leave, and then added to that, I was bringing another message that the Guineans are ready to send 5,000 troops and land them at Sprixby Field. I arrived in Monrovia. It was about June 26 or June 25, one of those days. When I was leaving, I left the Mercedes-Benz, white Mercedes-Benz car I was riding at the airfield in Cinco, Sprixby Airfield. Carry my keys with me, because when I arrived, I didn't want to be looking for a driver. I simply wanted to rush back to the airfield and leave in case of anything. Always see beyond the years. Do not just plan for today. Look at day after tomorrow. I arrived at the airport, put my keys in the car, warmed it up, and I drove from Sprixby Field in Cinco to the executive mansion. That was the same time that Charles Taylor troops took over Painesville. There was now one car that passed by me on the road. from Springfield to the executive mansion. I brought my glass down. I didn't want any air conditioner. I wanted to experience what was happening. I wanted to hear the talk in the street. People were yelling at me, "You stupid, and where you going? You stupid? Why you didn't stay? Where you come by here for?" I didn't know what they were talking about. I didn't stop to ask them. I drove straight to the mansion to see Doe. June 1990. When I got to the mansion and got out of the car and parked it, as I was walking into the front entrance of the mansion on the bridge there, I saw Ambassador Bennett Pearson, Liberian ambassador to the state of Israel. And we had a nickname. We called each other the Heat, because of John Scotland's newspaper headline that used to say the heat is on. So when something tough is going on, we say the heat is on, the heat is on. So Pearson, I saw him, he said the heat, I said the heat. Then he told me, he said the real heat is on now. I said yes. He said, Ambassador Pearson said, "What are you doing here?" I said, "But what are you doing here?" He said, "The Israelis sent me to tell Doe, to give Doe a code. I'm supposed to explain this code to Doe for 3 days. If he does not agree to the code, or he does not understand the code, I'm supposed to leave and everything will be over." I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "By the same message I brought, ECOWAS has given up on him. As far as Babangida is concerned, Doe has gone crazy because of the news they carried to him." And let me finish with that part of it before I go on. We have been at war with the MPFL. I have been a damage control man for the government. But I must tell you today that MPFL had a superior public relations machinery. Superior to the government. Because they work together, they pool their resources, and they were not fragmented like us. They're taking $1 million and giving it to 2 persons to go and run public relations and leaving your information ministry. So Taylor had the upper hand. He sent his agents into Freetown, Sierra Leone. Waldron Greaves and the Mirai brothers went into Freetown, Sierra Leone. And Waldron Greaves was the one who explained the story to me. He gave me, he said, "Bowier," I said, "Yeah." He said, "We're going to beat your man, we're going to whip his butt." I said, "What do you mean by that?" He said, "Oh man, sit down here." He said, "You see Abba Bundu?" I said, "Yeah." "The Secretary General of the ECOWAS?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Our drinking buddy." He said, "We came here with cash." He said, "Look at here, the people want to put you out of the hotel, you ain't got money to pay hotel." He said, "We came here with cash. We have paid Abba Bundu's 3 years in advance to rent his house in a compound where he lived. As a result of that, every evening we sit in the yard and we sit together here, our drinking buddy. Anything we tell you, he will do it." And he said, "You know what happening?" I said, "No." He said, "You didn't know that Bundu told Babangida that Doe gone crazy?" I believe him because Bundu told us that Doe was gone crazy. So those guys convinced the ECOWAS people, and the whole deck was stacked against Doe. The MPFL had a superior coordinated public relations machinery. So I told Pearson that I had come with a letter from the group signed by everybody in the group, and I have that letter today somewhere on earth, secured. You can come and break into my place. It's not there. You will not find it. My children will get it later on if I do not be there to see it. And that letter said to Doe that it was time for him to leave, and that they had sent me to get information from him to negotiate his term of departure, his asylum, etc., etc., because Bundu had told us that Doe agreed to leave. So Pearson and I went upstairs to do. He came with the Israeli formula, the code from the Israelis. And since we're no longer at war and it's not a secret code anymore, the code was, and the code is, a good general knows when to retreat. A good general knows when to retreat. In short, young man, if you leave now, we will bring you back. If you sit there until the enemies are at your doorstep, you'll be a sitting duck. There will be nothing we can do to save you. So leave now, because a good general knows when to retreat. I'm giving you all this so you can see what the situation we're in. We say we're fighting war. The chief of staff already said the army can't win a war. The former minister of defense, who is ambassador, comes back to say a good general knows when to retreat. I am giving an order by the Liberian delegation to tell Doe, you got to leave. Then I get upstairs and Mr. Charles Julu calls me, and he's in town here. He just got free the other day and he's in town. I don't know where he is, but you can find him. Mr. Charles Julu, the commander of the mansion guard who had been sent to the front, called me in a small room next to the Minister of State office. We usually call that the confessional room. You know, when you go to the church, you go in a small room where you confess to the priest. So we usually say that people come there, you carry the Minister of State in there and you talk to him. We call it the confessional room. So General Charles Julu took me into the confessional room and he said, Bowier, I said, yeah, he said, you got to talk to the chief. Now everybody wants Bowier to talk to the chief. Bowier, you got to talk to the chief. I said, what happened? He said, the war not going right. He said, look, my daughter in Boston, every day she called me crying. The people harassing her because I'm in the war. I participated in the war. The chief taking the money and giving it to all kind of foolish people. They come and say they kill rebel, he just gave them money. The war, how will we win the war and not coordinated? Everybody doing something. The chief want to be commander on the field when he in the house. So you gotta go talk to the chief. Charles Julu told me that. Charles Julu is still alive. All my witnesses are alive. So now here I was from the delegation in Freetown telling Doe to leave. From the Israeli telling him a good general knows when to retreat. And from his strong man Charles Julu begging me to beg the chief to do something. So I'm the big mouth boy who got to talk all these things. And I agreed to talk them. So Pearson went in, saw Doe. I didn't see Pearson again to say when. But Pearson had 3 days to explain his code to Doe. So when he came out of Doe's office, he left the mansion. I didn't see him again. Then time came in for me to go in. I went into President Doe's office. He had on his red, Nigerian cap, red and white t-shirt, his barrow t-shirt, a white short trousers, and he was standing up to meet me. So he shook my hand. He said, my man, what are you saying? I said, yeah. Then he said, you heard how we whipped the people the other day? I said, which people? He said, oh, you didn't hear the fool people who talk about monkey come down to a demonstrating against me? You were in Freetown, you didn't get the news? I said, no, I didn't get the news. He said, oh, man. We whipped them, we get a soya rotten all around. When they started out fooling them, they whipped them. So he talked. Then he said, what you say? What you give up? I said, I came to see you. He said, for what? I said, for a lot of things. I brought 2 messages for you. One from the Guinean government, one from your own delegation. So, one is good news, one is bad news. So what you want to hear first? He said, like, give me the good news. I said, okay. The good news is that the Guinean president wants to help you with 5,000 troops to be landed at Spring Field whenever you request. But he does not want you to send the information through the Guinean embassy in Monrovia because the man there is not his friend. You should send a message to the Guinean embassy in Freetown. I think the man there knew a Hadara or something. Anyway, it can be checked through the diplomatic handbook that the Freetown man name. So if you want him to help, just send the message through the ambassador and the troops will arrive any minute you call for it. He said, okay, what is bad news? I said, well, Abba Bunuto or Hikinya to see you. He said, yes. I didn't give him the letter. They were in my briefcase. I wanted to, when you deal with damage control, you got to test the water before you drop your net. I said, Abba Bunu said he came here to see you. He said, yes. I said, okay. Abba Bunu said that he discussed with you about your terms of resignation and your asylum. He said, yes. And that you have been discussing with the president in Nigeria and things were all right and you were going to go into exile. He said, yes. I said, well, the delegation just called me, sent me to find out whether what he told her is true. And if it is true, then you can authorize us to go back and negotiate your terms of resignation and your asylum and all of that. Then he kept quiet. And he looked at me a long time. He said, Bowier? I said, yes. He said, who started the war? I said, Charles Taylor. He said, okay, Charles Taylor started the war. Why you can't go tell Taylor to leave? Why you can't tell me to leave? Why you want me to, why you're all against me? Why you want to tell her to, that foolish Jarrah man, stupid man like he, Army threw him, he bought out the other day, the British people had to come and pull him back. Now he chairman the ECOWAS want me to leave. I'm not leaving from here. I will die here, I'm not leaving from here. He said, Bowier, I said, yeah. He said, you see those ships behind me? They were the American ships that were on the sea at that time. I said, yes, sir. He said that all I'm waiting for, that you see man in this town. I just waiting for the white people to come on show. I will die killing white people. Well, what he might not have known is that those people might have had the ability to hear what he was saying, and he didn't know it. So he was saying, I will die killing white people in this time. That's why I'm waiting for that nonsense they're talking about leaving here. Let them come here, I will deal with them. He quarrel. Then he rang a bell. The minister of state came. He said, send for the Guinean ambassador. I had told him, do not deal with the Guinean ambassador in Monrovia. Deal with the Guinean ambassador in Sierra Leone. But he still sent for the Guinean ambassador in Monrovia. I could have told him, Chief, you are not supposed to deal with a man, you have to deal with the other man. But he was in a rage, and so I was about to speak peace to my soul. I just look, send for the Guinean ambassador. They sent for the Guinean ambassador. He turned to me, when you going back? I said, I'm going back tomorrow. Okay, I'll see you. I want to shake your hand. No, I want to shake your hand. Get out of my office. I look at him, and my mother taught me how to fix my face in such a way that you are not smiling, you are not frowning. You got a blank face. So I adjusted my blank face, and I walked slowly backwards from him. It's a long way to the door. I walked slowly backwards, kept looking at him because I assumed in my mind that if I turn my back, the guy could think I'm insulting him. And then something will happen. So I walked slowly backwards and I opened the door, ran downstairs, jumped in my vehicle, ran back to the airport. My other witness has not died. Eddie Dunn. Eddie Dunn, who is chief of protocol at the mansion, at the mansion or State Department, one of the two. Anyway, Eddie Dunn is a protocol man. He's not dead. He's here. When I ran back to the airport, Eddie Dunn was then in charge of the airlines that was supposed to take me back. And it was owned by Gus Covenhoven, who owned at that time Hotel Africa. he didn't own it, he was leasing it, but he behaved like he owned it, and the Liberian people assumed that it was for him. No, Liberian will always behave that way. We make something, we give it to somebody to run, then we all say, oh, that Gus Hotel. So Gus had the planes and Eddie Dunn were operating the planes. By the time I got to the airport, Eddie Dunn called me and said, let's go into my office, I got to talk with you. We went to the office, some people there, he said, let's go outside. So when outside, we stood up in the open air. He said, my man, I don't know what you did to the mansion, I don't know what you did. But the president sent word here, we should let the plane go, he wants to see you tonight. I said, Eddie, what you say? He said, the president sent word here, we should let the plane go, he wants to see you tonight. We should then let the plane go and you should miss the flight, he wants to see you tonight. I said, what? I said, Eddie, I don't want to see him. So Eddie said, well, the only reason why the plane not gone is because Ben Parson went to town to get something. He should have come. And if he had come, the plane was going to leave here because of the order. I said, Eddie, I beg you, don't do that to me. Please help me. He said, okay, Bowier, how can I help you? The only thing I can tell you is when Ben Parson comes, we'll all walk to the plane. If nothing happens, you get inside, we'll all fly out. But there's no way I can protect you. I said, okay. I start walking up and down. Walking up and down. Then a special security officer came down from the tower at the airport at Spring Field. He saluted me. I saluted him back. We got word from the mansion that chief wanted to see you. I immediately yelled at him, fall out, fall out. He said, yes, sir. I said, I just left the mansion talking with the man. I'm running to Freetown to bring something. You don't know you want to see me? Fall out. Now that's another lesson the young people should learn. When you are in trouble, do not panic. Take control. Told the man, fall out. He saluted me and went back to his place. Then my own brother Washington came, Washington Bowier, who was flying for the Air Reconnaissance Unit and was in the Army for 35 years as a pilot. He came from outside of the airfield, entered the airfield, and I couldn't sit down now, I just walk up and down, with my briefcase in my hand. He came, shook my hand, and said, my man, you gotta get out of here. I said, what happened, Washington? He said, I can't talk to you, you gotta get out of here. He walked away from me. My own brother, I don't blame him for that. I knew what was happening. He just walked off, and I knew the end was in sight. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't pray. I couldn't do anything. I was dead. It was like I couldn't think. And then I saw a black Mercedes-Benz speeding coming to the airfield. Then I knew I was dead. Because I thought the mansion had really sent people to get me. When the Mercedes-Benz stopped, Johnny Ball jumped out. Johnny Ball was assistant minister for logistics in the mansion. He came from Nimba County. You are very loyal to Doe to the very end. He jumped out. He said, Bowier, I said, yeah, he said, your crowd ball wants to see you. And the reason why he referred Doe to Doe as my crowd ball is because Johnny had a way of going around saying, the chief said that. So he came to me one day trying to intimidate me. I said, look, you know what happened? That man was born 6 months after I was born. He my crowd ball. Don't scare me with him. So he said, your crowd ball wants to see you. I said, why he want to see me? He said, well, I was coming from Beansville, and they called me and said that he said I should come here and carry you. He wants to see you. I said, Johnny, I'm not a confused man. But Johnny is dead. So that witness not here. I said, Johnny, I'm not a confused man. I came this morning with a special message from President Momo, and that was a lie. And I'm going back to come back tomorrow with some arms and ammunition to help fight the war. If you want me to go back to the mansion and anything is delayed, nobody should blame me. So my man, I'm going to tell the chief. Johnny left and started speeding for the mansion. When Johnny left, Ben Parson came. We got in a plane. Mr. Eddie Dunn, go ask him. He got in a plane. They ran to the other runway down to where Mr. Sully lived, to the end of that runway. Turned around to come and take off. Damn, that was the most frightful part. I said, Lord, these people could shoot this plane. So I said, Lord, help me, help me. You promised to bear me up on eagle's wings. So this is it. So when we're coming, I just closed my eye because I expected any time for that plane to be shot. The plane took off, nothing happened. Then the pilot said he wanted to show us how Monrovia looked. I told Eddie, I said, Eddie, we flew over parts of Oro and all like that. We saw how all the streets are empty. There's no need for any further inspection. Please tell the man to head for Sierra Leone. So we didn't pass by the mansion, we passed the other way, headed for Sierra Leone. I did not know what was happening in Monrovia when I left. So I went to Freetown, Sierra Leone, and informed the delegation, including Jingiska, Tangaba, Jangaba, Dr. Tape, all of them. They called me to a meeting. I told them how I narrowly escaped. Then Jingiska said, oh, but my man, I thought you knew better. I said, what do you mean? You said you didn't know your boss, man? You think why I didn't go? I mean, the man allowed me to leave and come to bring the message. When I go back, I return back. Then he tell me I should have known better. He said, oh, you think I know? You think I will go tell Doe to resign? They all laugh. Then I realized that I could have died and that would have been fun. Liberian people never serious. You sent me on a mission, I came on a mission, and then you tell me I should have known better. So, I left the meeting, I didn't tell them anything. I went straight to my hotel room, called BBC, Focus on Africa. I said, Robin White? He said, yes. I said, this is Emmanuel Bowier, and I'm about to resign from the government. I'm about to ask the president to resign. Will you please record my last message to you? He said, okay. In a few minutes, I'll get back to you. In a few minutes, you call me, you say, everything ready for the recording. And I said, and the Liberian people are my witnesses, they can bear me out. On that day, I told the BBC that I am the Minister of Information. I called my name, and I said, I'm calling on the President of Liberia and Head of State, Samuel Doe, to make the supreme political sacrifice by resigning to save Liberia from further destruction and to save his own life. It was on BBC. So I don't have to call one witness. The Republic of Liberia is my witness. BBC has the recording. Contact them. Bush House, London. That message went out in my delegation. They even know I had recorded it and they heard it on BBC. They came up here, he said, I said, but what do you want me to do? And you said I should have known better. Now I'm out. You people stay part of the delegation. You know, I mean, there were dangerous games being played. So in a few hours' time, by that time, Minister Winston McLean was the acting Minister of State for Presidential Affairs because Minister Carl June had left. Minister Winston McLean lives down that street opposite that supermarket where they sell all the fruits. Benson Street, Benson, McLean Street, Newport Street area there. He lives upstairs opposite the supermarket. He's there now, or he might contact him. He will tell you. He was Minister of State for Presidential Affairs. In a few hours' time, he replied me on the BBC on the directive of President Doe. They branded me as a rebel sympathizer, a traitor, and that Doe would never succumb to anything like that. Though we fight with valor unpretending, quoting, I think one of those, they added the national anthem by the Lone Star, one of them. No, the Lone Star, the national anthem with valor unpretending. Until the last man. And so, that was my reply. Right after that, I got a call from the Sierra Leonean government informing me that I will have to stay in close confinement because they could no longer guarantee my safety. Mr. Koroma, I forgot his first name, but his last name is Koroma, K-O-R-O-M-A, was foreign minister. Karim Koroma, yes, foreign minister. The information minister at that time, I think, was Ian Imbayo. They talked with me. You can no longer afford to be in the street with a t-shirt and jeans and canvas shoes on. We have to protect you. They say, you recall the other day, Minister Wilson McLean sent us a message here from the Joint Security to say that the Taylor people had sent some people here to assassinate you and two or three other persons on your delegation. I said, yes. He said, when we got that information, we double-checked it with our own security. And we found out that it was true. And that is why we assigned to you three plainclothes bodyguards. And you said you didn't want any old men around you because you wanted to be jogging on the beach, so we assigned you people younger than you. He said, but now that was Taylor trying to get you, that is past. But your own man will get you. So we're sorry, we can no longer protect you in Sierra Leone. You must leave Sierra Leone. And until you leave Sierra Leone, we'll take you out of town and keep you there. These people that came in, according to the Joint Security Report from Liberia and the Security Report from Sierra Leone, that came in to assassinate me. As I told you, there's a spiritual side to me. They say he will give his angel charge over thee. You will not dash your foot against stones. You will play with black snake and they will not bite you. Because I like to be down to earth and simple, I wore my jeans, t-shirt and canvas shoes and went to the beach, Lumley Beach and all kind of beaches. And you know, by the time we had some money because we went on a delegation and our money was stronger than the money we made there. So we could afford to go and spread some money and make friends. So we went to a nightclub and these people who were our hosts became so angry with us because our boys and girls had taken over Freetown. The people who lived there were no longer in charge. Our people took charge. Our women were driving the Mercedes-Benz of these diamond dealers in Freetown. And the Freetown TT got angry with them. Our men had money, and even though we were refugees, we wore the kind of gold chain that they couldn't wear when they were not refugees. So when we went around, people followed us and we spread table. One day, somebody came from Monrovia and greeted me and said, hello, Mr. Minister. I said, hello. Then one of the guys who were always drinking with me said, oh, you minister? And then the guy said, yeah, that told Minister of Information. He said, oh, you the Minister of Information? I said, yes. He said, I want to take you some Lego behind the house. My bodyguard said, no, you can't take him behind the house. Take him all the way over there where I can look at you. Talk to him there, you're not taking him behind the house. And we went, two of them. And the guy said, you know, God like you. I said, what happened? The papa said, oh, he had to kill you. Now, I didn't know anything about Pape. I said, what are you talking about? He said, Taylor said, I had to kill you. I said, really? What did? He said, Taylor said, when he go on BBC and talk, everybody hard lay down. So he finished, you go there, you thought they put high spot for him. So I'm going to kill you before we get though. I look at him long time. I said, you sure Taylor want to kill me? He said, yeah. That's why we came here. He said, it's good that we didn't know, we were drinking with you before we know you, because we know you're not a bad man. So I took off my watch. They had a compass on it, show you north, east, south, and west. I took off my watch. I gave it to them. I said, I only got one. So that for the two of you, you are my friends, you hear? They said, okay. Nobody will hammer you that time here. I said, okay. But my common sense told me that was the last time I would see them again. I gave them my watch. They gave me their word that nobody would hammer me, but I was not going to put my safety in their hands, because they could have messed with me to go back for a better watch. So immediately I went to the Salina government and told them it was time for them to do something about me, because these boys told me that they came to do a job that they didn't do until they got to know me. So they took me out of town, far, far out of town, on the beach, and gave me a place on the beach. My bodyguards, 3 of them, had a place near my cottage. There I was, every day listening to BBC, analyzing the news, doing this, doing that. When on Sunday, November 9, 1990, the BBC said, we interrupt this broadcast to bring you a special bulletin. In a surprising move, President Samuel Doe has been captured. He was captured by Prince Johnson forces, etc., etc., etc. And I sat on that beach and wondered why he could not listen to us when we talked to him. I wonder what benefit those people who told him to stay on, what benefits they derive from seeing him go down the way he went down. I went to bed and slept well because I knew I did not do anything to betray him. I even put my life on the line the last minute to tell him to leave, and he did not leave. Now I will tell you about the other side of me, and Mr. William V.S. Tubman Jr. is my witness. Still alive, living near the Oro or in the Oro area. On September 9, 1989. 9, September 9, 19, there's another 9, 89, there's another 9. If you turn those 9s upside down, they become 6, 6, 6. And go to your pastor, like he explained the spiritual significance. On September 9, 1989, I was visiting with Miss Elitha Johnson, the managing director of the Liberia Petroleum and Refining Company. She lived at Mamba Point. When I arrived, I met Mr. William V.S. Tubman Jr. there with her. And we watched the TV news, and it was announced that the next day, that was September 8, it was announced that the next day, September 9, 1999, all cabinet ministers should meet behind the mansion to play football with President Doe. And you can go and ask Mr. Tubman. As soon as that sentence was over, my big mouth opened, and I said, I'm not going there. And so Chair Tubman turned around and looked at me in amazement. You say you're not going? I said, I'm not going anywhere. He said, why? I said, it's a bad day. I ain't going nowhere. He said, but you haven't seen the day yet. How can you say bad? I said, it is September 9, 1989. I'm not going anywhere. It doesn't look like a good day to me. The next day, September 9, It rained the whole day. There were rain and storm the whole day. So no football game. The rain stopped in the evening, and President Doe decided he must go to Tucson and sleep there that night. By that time, his big jet plane had gone for repairs. It was not in Liberia. His small jet plane, the blue plane, had been taken to Togo or somewhere near here for repairs. So he had no plane to go by. So he had depend upon a plane that was operated by one group. The plane was made in Russia. When it's in the air, it produces a lot of smoke. You would think you're using kerosene. So I was passing by the home of Mr. John Doe in the Cinco area and going to visit Maurice Douglas, who lived behind John Doe, on September 9, 1989. And John Doe started yelling at me, Bowier, Bowier, where are you going? I said, I'm going to visit Douglas. He said, who Douglas? Douglas, the president in the country? I said, no, what happened? The president will go for Tucson, you say you go visit Douglas? Eh? Douglas, the president in this country? I told you to take care of you, always between those two Mandingo boys. We're talking about Douglas and Kroma. The president going to the airfield, you say you're going to visit Douglas? Eh? Okay, I'm going to the airfield. So I had common sense. I did not go back to my friend Douglas. I just turned around and headed for the airfield. Because maybe if I had not reached the airfield, it could be said that I was visiting Douglas while Doe was going to the airfield. When I arrived there, Doe had already arrived before me, and he was about to go up into the plane, and he turned to Emmanuel Shaw, and Shaw is still alive. Shaw was then finance minister. He turned to Emmanuel Shaw and said, Shaw, you see the kind of plane you are going in? You see the kind of plane? Eh? You just say you're going to repair my plane. You don't bring my plane, but you see the kind of plane you're going in? Shaw said, Chief, everything will be all right. Don't worry. Everything will be all right. Doe marched into that aircraft. They closed the door, and the aircraft left. After almost more than an hour, we got word that the plane was missing. September 9, 1989. The plane that should have taken about 30 minutes or 45 minutes to reach Tucson, in more than an hour had not reached Tucson. The plane was nowhere in the southeastern region of Liberia. The plane was headed for the Mano River Bridge area, eastern Liberia, toward the Sierra Leonean border. And you can go and ask Mr. Confinement, who was the pilot. He's my living witness. Ask him, because the story was revealed to us later on by he and Doe. Confinement started to tell this Italian pilot that we should have reached Tucson long ago. How come we stay in the air? He said, oh, we'll soon reach that. Confinement started to fuss with him and telling him that you are taking us in the wrong direction. Tucson is in the east and you are headed for the west. Why? He said it will soon reach. So Confinement left his seat and came back to Doe and told Doe that he didn't know what was going on, but this man was heading for the east and they were near the Sierra Leonean border. Doe got angry, went up to the pilot and told him a few words, damn him out, and told him that if you do not turn this plane around now, I will blow your head off. And according to those who were in the plane, when they saw Doe reaching for a pistol to scare the pilot, I assume, because I don't think he wanted to die too, the man who was serving food on board the plane could not control himself, and the toilet came running down his legs. They came back to Monrovia. We ran back to the airfield to receive Doe and his group. When they got to Monrovia, I was at the airport to cover the story. Weade-Koba was at the airport to cover the story. Weade is still alive. She lives in the Fiama area. She teaches at the University of Liberia, deputy chairman of the mass communication department. Still alive. Weade-Koba and I were there to cover the story because we knew there were going to be some drama. When Doe got out of that plane, September 9, 1989, he ran to go and jump on the pilot. Okay, he wanted to beat the pilot up. There was an SSS officer called George Thomas, a huge guy. He simply opened the car door, grabbed Doe, pushed him in the car, slammed the door, and told the driver, move off. And the driver sped away to the mansion. Now that is the SSS that I know. The SSS that has complete control of the person of the president. The original SSS Act granted the SSS the power and the authority to remove the president from anywhere and sit the president anywhere and lock the president anywhere to save the president. The president guy said, oh, I want to go where you going. That's the law. So George Thomas, knowing the law, because they were the original SSS people, just grabbed Doe and threw him in the car, slammed the door and said, move up. Weade-Koba was there. So they moved him to the mansion. They grabbed that pilot. There was no investigation. They simply declared him persona non grata, and that's a big word for saying we don't want him in our country anymore. They deported him without any investigation. They were so vexed with him. That next day, there was a holiday in Liberia. Nobody declared it a holiday. But all the people, especially those from the southeastern region, came in the street with white chalk on their faces dancing. No one surpasses him.
Thank you, Mr. Witness.
I'm coming to the main point.
Which one?
I'm explaining to you what happened.
Mr. Witness, I beg your your indulgence.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, there will still be opportunity to connect and explain a lot, as you say, you know.
But I'm linking 1989 with the Freeport 1990. I'm linking the two.
Okay, that's clear.
So could you let me make my link?
Precisely.
Thank you. That was September 9, 1989. 3 9s line up. I met Mr. Sher Topman later on, and he said, Bowier, how did you know it was going to be a bad day? I said, well, I just felt that it was going to be a bad day because I really didn't know. I just felt that it was going to be a bad day. Let's go fast forward, since the chairman doesn't want me to explain much, to September 9, 1990. 1 year later, if anybody on the mansion staff had been thinking, they might have reminded the gentleman that today last year, that the day you almost died, they might have reminded him. I was in Freetown, Sierra Leone, when he got in his motorcade and rode to the Freeport, September 9, 1990. The next year, the same day and day, when 3 9s lined up, and he died. Mr. Chairman, let's go on. Say I can't talk anything else. Proceed with your questioning. I just want to tell you what September 9, 1989, when I felt that something bad was going to happen, it came September 9, 1990. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Proceed.
Commissioner Connell.
Witness. What I gathered from your lengthy explanation is that you went through these events in order to counsel, admonished, and advised the people of Liberia.
Yes, sir.
Now, from your testimony, we gathered therefrom that perhaps it may not be this same 399, but you served the two-way parted.
Yes, sir.
You saw some of the happenings in that party,
Yes, sir.
and you stay vividly remembering those happenings.
Yes, sir.
And you also serve in the PRC
Yes, sir.
as well as NDPL.
Yes, sir.
If you were to ask to grade the three positively, what would be your measure?
Sir, I would like for you to please clarify what you mean by grade. Grade them on the basis of what? On the basis of
On the basis of merit, of democracy.
Well, sir, you have given me a very interesting assignment. It is difficult to compare the PRC, the People's Redemption Council, with the Talbot's government, because the Talbot government was a civilian government elected by the people of Liberia. The People's Redemption Council was a government that came to power by force of arms. You cannot compare the two. When it comes to the Talbot government and the NDPL government, maybe you can compare the two because the NDPL head got elected later on as president. And if you want to compare the two, I would say that you have more freedom of speech and freedom of express in the Talbot government than you had in the NDPL government. When it came to satisfaction of the people, the Talbot government had that satisfaction in the beginning, but because of a lot of things, his popularity dwindled in his last days. And one of the things was that President Talbot was like a reluctant grandfather who did not want to hurt any side. He was there. He wanted to keep his friendship with the people who he grew up with. And yet you are referring to the young people as his precious jewels. He was caught up between these two forces. He wanted to satisfy the old order and bring in a new order together. I know that because I worked closely with him. I contributed writing many speeches for him with Willie Givings, with Dr. Elwood Dunn. I talked to him personally and knew his vision for this country. But every time he wanted to make a move, the old people reminded him that hurry, hurry, bust trousers, so the speedy thing you bring in, calm down, do this, do that. And being a reluctant grandfather, he just felt that he could ride a tie until the end. Now, another thing, he had occasions when he could have made changes that would have changed this country. To his credit, he tried to make the changes. I know it because I work within the system. Mr. Talbot, President of Liberia, wanted to make changes. One of the changes that he was contemplating after James Green died. James Green was his first vice president from Sino County. One of the changes he contemplated was to have a purely indigenous vice president as a signal that we're moving to a day when things will be reconciled. That I know because I was in the system. But then people started telling him, oh man, you gotta be careful, it's not time for these people yet. You're bringing them too close too soon. So Talbot started to vacillate, to move one way, move another way. He wanted it badly, he wanted to put Jackson Doe there, but then he vacillated. They should have had a convention in Saniquili. After James Green died, the next convention would have been in Saniquili. During that time, it was going to be that there was going to be a shift. But because people agitated so much, Talbot changed his mind from Jackson Doe. And the next thing we knew, he wanted to put Reginald Townsend from Shefflin. Reginald Townsend was the Grand Master of Masons. He had gone high up in the Chewy Party. He had been Minister on Secretary of Information, Culture and Tourism. He was well learned and everything, internationally exposed. I was in Burrowville, Montserrat County, during the last days of the Chewy Party when they had a Chewy Party high-level meeting at the home of the Deputy Speaker at that time, Alfred Curtis. And we were the people taking notes. So I have always been inside taking notes. So before the president arrived, Senator Frank Emmanuel Talbot of Bental at that time, Bental, decided to give a lecture to those who were present. And the start of his lecture was providing a political shock absorber system for the presidency. Providing a political shock absorber system for the presidency. He was quarreling about the fact that he thought that there were people in the government who were not prepared to stand up to defend the president. They will only talk about the president and support him when he is physically present. But when they go out, they do not defend the president or defend the government's position. And therefore, all the shock from the masses, from the people in the street, all of what they were saying were running straight up to the president and shocking him. There were no political shock absorbers to help the president bear the weight of the political system at that time. After that, they had a caucus meeting. The president came, and the president was about to leave. And Reginald Townsend at that time, Reginald Townsend, Honorable Townsend, was the Minister of State for Presidential Affairs. In fact, he was Liberia's first Minister of State for Presidential Affairs. Because before Talbot, we had no Minister of State. We had about 4 or 5 administrative assistants to the president. And the country was divided, I think there were 5. Each administrative assistant controlled one county. And so anything you want, for instance, General Gurich controlled the Riverside Bassa area. Anytime my father then had a problem in Riverside, you go to the mansion, you see General Gurich, you do not see President Tubman. You talk to Goodrich will talk to the president. Not everybody run from the market to the president. So he had a decentralized. Townsend walked his boss man Talbot to the car. And in all of our presence, Talbot said, "But Reggie, come ride with me. You already look like the vice president." Green was dead now. We're looking for a vice president. And then the president makes a public pronouncement that you already look like the vice president. Come ride with me. So the both of them got in his black Jaguar car and everybody were clapping. And I thought we knew Reggie was going to be the vice president. So people start campaigning with Reggie already to make sure that when he enter his kingdom, he will remember them. Well, things didn't go well that way. Knowing very well what the president wanted to do, arranged to have Reggie assume other responsibilities, including the minister, in addition to the minister of state, and they had a big program at the executive pavilion, where you have the governor, the auditors right now, the building next to it, the executive pavilion. I was present again, and I took notes. And by that time, it was clear that President Tolbert said he was still looking. It was clear that Reggie Townsend was no longer on the radar. And when he honored Reginald Townsend got up and made a speech in which he said, "Serene, I fold my hands and wait, nor care for ocean tide nor sea, for lo, my own shall come to me. Asleep, awake by night or day, the friends I seek are seeking me. No wind can drive my barge astray, nor change the tide of my destiny. For what is mine shall see my face." Townsend was intelligently saying, "You dumping me, but whatever is for me will come to me." But then there were cracks in the party. People outside did not know that there were cracks in the party. I'm telling you about the similarity and differences. It was around this time that you also had a crack in the party resulting from the fact that the son of the chairman of the party had been indicted for murder in Maryland County. He was superintendent of Maryland County. James Anderson. And I was also there at the E.G. Roy building when they called a special meeting. And Anderson thought that his son was being unfairly treated. And I was there when Anderson got up and said, "Mr. Standard Bearer, I'll be less than a man if I do not resign." And he talked about how they were ill-treating his son. His son was not guilty. It was malice, and the people were jealous of him, and all kind of things. And he resigned and walked out. The party was falling apart. People outside did not know. So when you want to compare the two between Tolbert and the NDPL, the same thing happened in many cases. The People's Redemption Council came to power. They were all a big, happy family. They were all looking for old regime people to punish. They were all looking for what they call the Ray Congo girls. They were just a big, happy family. Then somebody came and told them, or told Doe, that you cannot have 20 or more presidents in Liberia. You are the head of state. You cannot have 20 or more head of state. You make decision, the other people pass order, the person passes, the public is confused. You have to establish your authority. I will give you an example. July 1980. The coup took place April 1980. By July, I was back in the Information Ministry working, Special Assistant to Minister Gabriel Nimlin. Honorable Thomas Doe, member of the PRC, sent Henry Doe, not Thomas, Henry Doe, Honorable Henry Doe, member of the PRC, sent a release to the Liberian Information, Liberian Information, LINA, Liberian Information Service, Liberian Information Service, news agency, news agency. And that was a very serious release. Why was it serious? It was serious because Zuo accused, not Zuo alone, but a lot of PRC people. There were many that signed that release. I have it somewhere in the world, a copy of it. Zuo and his fellows accused President Doe of corruption. This was July 1980. They said President Doe was corrupt, and his Minister of State, George Bowier, was corrupt, and that they had found a bag with some money, with some gold, with some traveler's checks in Bentall on the eve of Talbot's departure for Zimbabwe. And when they killed Talbot, they decided to keep the bag so they could decide what to do with it. And it was said by them in that release that the bag was given to Doe, and Doe gave it to Bowier, and they don't know what happened with the money and the gold and the diamonds and the traveler's check. So we should announce that Doe is corrupt. Now, this is just July. April was the revolution. July, they want us to announce that Doe is corrupt. And that Doe had approved for the price of gasoline and the price of rice to go up, the price of bread and the price of gasoline to go up, and it was going to cause hardship for the Liberian people. Therefore, Doe is counter-revolutionary. He's not in the cause of the people, and therefore he's corrupt. They sent that release to the Information Ministry for us to announce. And I have a living witness, Edward Okiki Davis, Director General of the news agency. He's now in Philadelphia. I can give you his telephone number and you can ask him. Okay? So, Gabriel Neiman was out of town. I was there as a special assistant. Head of State Doe went to Tucson to spend the 26th. And while he was in Tucson, they wanted us to announce in Monrovia that he was corrupt. So when I received this thing, I went to Ed Davis and said, look, they sent me this. We can't announce it. And I called LBS and said, we cannot announce it. Of course, EWA would have never announced it, so I wouldn't worry about EWA. We cannot announce it because there's a standing order from the government of Liberia, and I think that order still stands. I do not know whether it's changed or not. You can ask Minister Proplet. But that order is that anything that has to do with the executive mansion and the presidency that is negative cannot be published until the mansion is contacted. Anything that is negative about the presidency, the president, or the executive mansion cannot be published by the government press unless the mansion is first contacted for its side. And I said, therefore, based on this, and that was 1980, I had been in the ministry from 1976. So I was 4 years in the ministry and I knew better. I had been special assistant to about 3 ministers. I should know better. Based on this, we cannot publish it. So go and put it on the file. It will not be published. The very next day, Zuo sent a group of soldiers to get Gabriel Nimlin. Gabriel Nimlin was out of town, the Minister of Information. So I, as Assistant Minister and Special Assistant to the Minister, had to go to the Capitol building. So while I was going, I told them to bring the release along. I have photocopied it and put one on my file. Bring the release along, and I asked Mr. Edward Okiki Davis, the Director General, to accompany me to the Capitol building. I also asked Mr. Carlos Wallace Smith, who later on became member of Unity Party. He was deputy to Okiki Davis at the news agency, to accompany me to the Capitol building. So, and I drove to the Capitol building. I drove them. We got there, and we met Major Zuo or whoever, I don't know whether he was colonel or major. Anyway, we met him there. He was very calm. He acted like he was calm, but there was a storm brewing in him. He said, okay, people, we sent our release to you yesterday to publish, and until now we haven't heard it on the radio. We just want to know what's happening. Well, I like to follow protocol sometimes. I said, well, the director of the news agency will explain to you why you didn't hear it. The head said, Mr. Councilman, we couldn't carry that kind of thing on the radio because it's against the head of state, and we have a standing order. That anything that has to do with the mansion and the head of state, we cannot publish it until the mansion gives us a clearance. So I said, oh, so that it? He said, yeah. So just went down behind his chair with his right hand. And when he came out with AK-47. He said, line up against the wall. We line up. He had his finger on the trigger, and he started to lecture us. He said, you think that the True Party government will keep to bring back here? Is that what you think? You think that your UBF government will bring it back here? We tell you to announce that the man corrupt you, so you gotta go ask the man. The same corrupt man, that man you go ask. He said, look, let me tell you something. You talk one more while, we'll bloody order you here. By that time, I had closed my eyes. I was no longer looking at him. I was just imagining what he would do. We passed through some dangers, like the song said, through many dangers, toil and snares. I have already come. When we look at literature and talking foolishness, we have been through danger. This man is trembling, visibly shaking, holding the AK-47 and saying, you're going to bloody us up. His bodyguard, everybody start begging for us. He said, no, let me bloody them up. Then let Doe come, we'll share blood. My witnesses are alive. Ask them. So, they calmed him down and took the gun from him. His bodyguards, his office staff. Then he said, okay, who is the head of the news agency? He said, Ed David. He's going to put knocking down, took out his shoe, took out his watch, took out everything. He's going to central prison. And he turned to me, and he turned to Carlos Smith. I gave you 2 hours. If I don't hear anything on the radio, I will bloody you. I said, yes, sir. When you get under stress, don't panic. Just calm down. I told him, yes, sir. Then the boys came back to him and said, Chief, we ain't got no car to get him into to the prison. He said, you didn't bring car? I said, yeah, we brought car. He said, who driving the car? I said, I driving the car. So you the driver, carry the man, you go locking up. So I had the painful duty of driving my colleague Ed Davis to the central prison to lock him up. I was the driver. The soldier knocked him down, took out his shoes, his watch, his eyeglasses, everything, put him in the jeep, in the car. And Carlos Smith remained there with them, and I drove Ed Davis to the central prison and delivered him there. When we were coming back, the soldiers decided to open up a conversation with me. They said, you small boy. The thing that people do, you know what happening. Something happening, you know it. So the best thing we can advise you, when you go by here, just announce the thing. Nothing will happen with you. Anything come, the people were talking. I didn't say yes. I didn't say no. I didn't even grunt. I just started playing the radio and drove back to the Capitol building. Anything I had said would have implicated me on one side or the other. We went back and to him. And he said, okay, I told you I gave you 2 hours. I know where to find you. In 2 hours, if I don't hear anything on the radio, I will bloody you. The two of you. So, okay. When we came out, I told Carlos, I said, we got 2 hours to die. And I'm not dying because of the release. Let's go to the mansion. We went to the mansion. We met George Bowier, Minister of State. That's my other witness. He's not dead yet. I said, George Bowier, Minister of State, I have a very serious assignment for you today. This man across the road said, in 2 hours you will bloody me up along with Carlos Smith if we do not announce this thing that you and Doe stole the money. The bag of money, gold, diamond, traveler's check, everything. I can tell you, Bowier, that I'm not dying because of this thing. You either protect me or I'm announcing it now. That's all I came to tell you. You either protect me or we're going to announce it. Bowier pick up his telephone, call Doe, Tuzon, explain to Doe. I don't hear what he said. Okay, on telephone. And Bowier put the telephone down and said, okay, you go back to the Capitol building. Problem solved. I said, okay. We walked to the Capitol, drove back to the Capitol building, and it took us back to Zuo's office. While we were entering Zuo's office, the vice head of state, Samuel Doe, were coming downstairs. And then he came right to Zuo's office. And then Samuel Doe told Zuo, said, Zuo, the chief called, he said, lead the people. Lead the people. Then Zuo said, so Tama sign, the thing will be on here, lead the people, lead the people. They were the revolution for corrupt people to come and lead the people. He said, hey man, Zuo, and you know what we're on, lead the thing. So, Zuo turned, then Wesson went back. Zuo turned to us, he said, I know you. He said, I know your face. When something happened here, I will find you, I will bloody you. From that day, July 1980, I tried to keep other public functions because I wanted you to forget my face. Because he had promised me that anything happened, he would find me and bloody me up.
Thank you.
Okay.
Immediately after April 12th.
Immediately after April 12th, yeah.
And during the early part of the first and second years, the social military political slogan was 1985 will turn the country to the civilians.
Yes, sir.
We'll go to the ceasefire.
Yes, sir.
By 1983-84, that slogan was changed to returning the country to civilian rule.
Yeah.
People who have access to English language, they felt that something was going wrong. And you, as Assistant Minister of Information, putting in the strategic areas of defining and disseminating the language of the government.
Yeah.
Can you tell us how do you understand the two phraseology? Turning the country over to the civilians and turning the country to civilian rule.
What? 1 minute. You want me to explain the difference between turning the country over to civilians and turning the country back to civilian rule? Normally, it should be the same thing. If you turn over to civilians, you have turned over to civilian rule. If you turn over to civilian rule, you have turned over to civilian. It should be the same. But since I know what you're saying, because I've been trained to answer what you don't ask, I will say this. It's the case of Kuku Jumuku. I told you here that I was sent back to the United States when I was assistant minister. I was there as press counselor. I was promoted to assistant minister. And after I made efforts so that the constitution will not die, and made efforts so that the Firestone people released the constitutional the referendum result from Firestone manager's vault. And after I took the foreign press to the university campus to cover the aftermath of the university crisis with the military, I was perceived as a troublemaker. And I was sent back to the United States, and my rank went back to me, to be press and cultural counselor. So I was demoted and sent back. I'm coming to answer your question now. I was demoted and sent back because of many reasons. One of it is that in the Ministry of Information we had internal rivalry. Nkrumah was Minister of Information. And there were rumors that certain situation was going on to unseat Mr. Nkrumah. And there was the perception that Bowier and Nkrumah being friendly, and Bowier preparing all these memorandum every morning about how the ministry should run, according to the public relations and damage control and public diplomacy. You cannot mess with Nkrumah without messing with Bowier. So the best thing you do, mess with Bowier first. When you get him out of the way, then you can mess with Nkrumah. So the NDPL imported some boys from Freetown, Sierra Leone. They were called the NDPL Tax Force. I believe you remember them. Do you, Councilman?
Remember what?
Do you remember the NDPL Tax Force?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. A bunch of guys who came from Freetown who were brought here by certain high-ranking people in the NDPL, who said that when election comes around, if you don't vote for NDPL, the tax force will take care of you. You remember that? Thank you very much. Well, somebody got a guy called Buckeye from Freetown who came with the tax force to write a letter to the head of state Doe, outlining the situation with the university, the constitutional convention, the referendum results, and the university crisis, and all of that. And the letter clearly stated, let Mr. Valentine go and look for the letter. The letter clearly stated to President Doe that the NDPL task force was advising him that if Bowier remained in Liberia, he would not win the presidency. Against that background, I was called in by my boss, Nkrumah, and told that the president, ahead of state Doe, wanted me to go back to Washington, D.C. to get my family. I told them to give me the money, I would send for them. They said, no, you yourself go and get them. When I went to get them, they sent me a telex stating that by directive of the head of state and commander-in-chief, you are ordered not to return to Monrovia. It was during that time that I was there for the second time that Mr. Vargas Matthews, and they were 1984, Mr. Vargas Matthews appeared in the United States at the time when political parties and political activity were brewing in Monrovia. You want the story? I will tell you the story. Please give me a chance. Mr. Matthews appeared in America when political parties were brewing here. As I told you, Mr. Matthews was supposed to go to the U.S. in September 1984, but he sent a letter by me to tell Thomas Bowier why he could not come, because he wanted to be on the ground. But toward the end of 84, Matthews left town and went to the United States. When I was press counselor, and Bowier and other people sent me a letter to inform me that Matthews were going to have a press conference to make a very important announcement. Since I represented the Ministry of Information and the Liberian News Agency, I attended that press conference and took notes. Mr. Matthews said that he had come to that press conference to announce that he, G. Bacchus Matthews, would not be part of any elections during the 85 or 85 election. He will not be part of it. And he said the reason why he will not be part of it is because Head of State Samuel Doe, agreeing to the proposal from the American government, had agreed to go back to the barracks. That's what Matthew said in the press conference. And I sent the news to the news agency and sent copy to the executive mansion. In the mansion, you'll find it in the press secretary file because I sent it to Patrick Kuman. So please call Mr. Valentine again to see if Bowier lied. Mr. Matthews said he was not going to contest against Doe because Doe had called the progressives. And then he named some people to the mansion and had told them that the PRC had agreed that they should go back to the barracks because the Americans were encouraging them to go back to the barracks. The Americans were going to give each of them $25,000 to start life. They were going to help them to go to school, take care of their family for so many years, make sure they got an education. When they got through with whatever they wanted to do, they would help them to go into business. Doe and his group, according to Matthews, agreed. I sent the release to Monrovia. Matthews said the reason why he will not compete in the election is because Doe only asks one favor of the progressives. And that one favor is that when they go back to the barracks, or before they go back to the barracks, some arrangement should be made so that the government of Liberia will grant them pension. Number one. Number two, some paper must be signed, some law must be passed, or decree must be passed, that those who participated in April 12 will never be persecuted. Number three, that the progressives will go and organize a government from the president down to the messenger and present that government to the PRC, and the PRC will arrange a transition with them. Mr. Matthews said when they left that meeting and came outside, trouble started to breed within the ranks of the progressives. Everybody was anxious to know who will be what, who will support who. That was not the only thing. Somebody among them were careless enough to say that as soon as Doe will grab him and jail him and persecute him for that April 12th thing. Doe got the news. Now that's another lesson in Liberian politics. The president will get the news. No matter where you say it, in your girlfriend's room, on the bus, in a taxi, in the airplane, the president will get the news. Why? Because the president has many ears. So Doe got the news. So Matthew said that since Doe offered to turn over and the progressives themselves did not act wisely and they started to fuss among themselves and they threatened to jail Doe and the other people for the April 12th thing, Doe decided that since they don't want to take this thing and protect us, the only way we can protect ourselves is if I become president. That was when Doe arranged, or the NDPL arranged, for military and security personnel to meet Doe at the shuffling military barracks and elect him to be their presidential candidate for the NDPL, because they said, if we do not have Doe to become our standard bearer, and if he does not win the election, when these people come to power, they will treat the army the same way they treated us in the past. I mean, that was their propaganda, but that's what they said.
Thank you.
So Mr. Matthews refused to contest the election against Doe. And Mr. Matthews said this thing which became the headlines in Liberia. And I sent the story here. He said, the politicians have missed the boat which is gone sailing with Samuel Doe aboard. The politicians have missed the boat that is now gone sailing with Samuel Doe on board. Well, later on we found out that Doe and Matthew were friendly, and Doe gave him a brand new car and all like that. And so the progressives started to accuse him of being the one who told Doe, but we never got that established until he died. So you wanted me to tell you the difference between these things. I'm just telling you that.
No, it's understood now.
Thank you.
While testifying, you made mention of one Mansfield Yancey.
Mansfield Yancey, yes sir.
Do you know his whereabouts now?
Mansfield Yancey is buried at the Gate of Heaven Cemetery, Maryland, USA. The Ministry of Defense will give you records of his military career. The Liberian News Agency or the government of Liberia should have files of the fact that he nominated Doe at the shuffling military barracks. Contact the Daily Observer, they will give you a report of the day it happened, because the Daily Observer was intact. So what about Mansfield Yancey you want to know about?
No, whether he is still alive.
No, he's not alive.
Okay,
But what about his deeds that you want to know about?
no. Just,
But let me tell you one last thing now.
yeah.
Yancey nominated Doe, and he helped to squash the invasion. He was made ambassador to Guinea, but he never went to Guinea. That's the part I want to tell you. Why? That's a Liberian family system. Mansfield Yancey was married to Marlene Phillips. Marlene Phillips was the sister of the Phillips guy that got killed, and they said the military killed him. But before he got killed, when the invasion occurred, they accused all of them. And while they were in court, Marlene Phillips Yancey slapped Mr. Broderick, what his Councilor Broderick name? Nelson Broderick. She slapped Nelson Broderick and said that Nelson Broderick was lying on her brother. Okay, so she was acting as a family woman defending her brother. Well, the news got to Doe that the man that you nominated to be ambassador to Guinea, his wife slapped the government lawyer. So what kind of Guinea you send the man to? That was the end of his career.
In the 70s, as well as in the 80s, and now, there were calls for drastic change, radical change, dramatic change, and also take your destiny into your own hands.
Take your destiny away.
Into your own hands.
Into your own hands, yeah.
Can you help to define this as political activists?
You mean I'm going to define this within the context of my political activism?
Yes.
Well, when we talk
Whether
about
it was appropriate at the time and whether it's still appropriate now.
it's appropriate, it would be appropriate until all of this all turn to dust. It is always appropriate for the Liberian people to have their destiny in their own hands. It is a sickening thing, very sickening, to hear high-level people in high places all over this country tell you where we want to do it, but you think the American people agree? Sick people. Should they tell us what to do? Do we live in a kitchen? Our destiny should be in our own hands. Our life may be in the emperor's hand, but our conscience is our own. So that would be appropriate until all of this building turns to dust. Thank you.
Thank you. You also said that during your visit in America, there was certain things you were told to tell President Doe to
Yes.
do. If not, by October
By October 1990,
you
we'll look around and we'll not see him. That's what they told us.
what they suggested to you?
Well, I'm a dumb boy, but if you tell me in October you will not see the man, in September he disappeared, that means you told me the truth.
Can one then conclude that there was external influence that were covering the war
I
in
told you,
Liberia?
I will explain the story to you. Then when I explain my side to you, go home and let your grandma explain the rest. Because the reason why I'm saying so is not any insult to you or something. I just want to put it simply. We explain that these people say we're not going to stop the war because this man will not leave. We have the ability to stop Taylor in his tracks, but we're not going to do it until the man leaves. Go back, tell this young man he's 40 years old. Life begins at 40. Let him take your money and go enjoy it. We don't mind. But if you stay there until October, you look around, you'll not find him. September, I left him here with y'all. I left him here with y'all with a red hat, red and white striped t-shirt and white short trousers. I left him here. You told me to kill him. I've come back, I don't see him. So what do you want me to do?
Because you got big mouth, I wanted to.
Okay, now, okay.
Okay, no, it's understood.
No, since you want to challenge my big mouth,
it's understood.
since you want to challenge my big mouth, let me tell you something. My big mouth is not a coward mouth. I told you also that a group of Liberian people, in fact, you were there, you're my witness. You're not dead, you're my witness. A group of Liberian people got together and said, we'll make peace. And in your presence, Charles Gunny from the American Embassy in Mamba Point traveled to Freetown to tell you not to agree because he had the military advantage. You did not agree. We went into war. The country got destroyed. Then you wonder, who are behind it? Okay, everyone got a big name with just said that Charles Gunny was acting in his own interest.
The concept, the concept of TRC,
yes, sir.
truth speaking and reconciling differences, is more religious,
Yes, sir.
than secular in nature.
That's true.
Because the Bible, the Quran says, speak the truth.
Yes, sir.
When you do so, you shall be saved. Why the secular concept talk about you not to give statement against yourself,
Yes, sir.
and if you do, will be used against you.
Yes, sir.
In this regard, it will be felt in the Liberian society that the religious leaders should take the front row in encouraging people to speak the truth and reconciling the differences among our people, so as to reunify them for the greatest task of reconstruction. But among the religious groups in Liberia, there is reverent, a competition of superiority, a competition of who is more Liberian than the other. And how do you see the future of Liberia under such circumstances?
The future of Liberia is very bright. I'm a patriot who's looking down the years. The future is very bright. If I had the power, I would die today and be born 2 or 10 years from now, because the future will be better. My big mouth says so. The future of Liberia will be bright because it is true that there are misinformed people who try to drive a wedge between individuals, groups, and institutions in this country. They will burn themselves out. As I told you yesterday, Mr. Montresa wrote, 1,000 candles burn themselves out, still I read on. 1,000 candles burn themselves out, still I read on. Do you remember, Mr. Commissioner, that before we ever heard that there were going to be war in this country, I called you. In fact, you came to my office to discuss the possibility of the Muslims having a radio station. Do you remember? Thank you very much. You came to my office along with the Sharif, who was head of the Muslim Council, and somebody else to talk about the Muslims having their radio station. That was about 88. There was also a proposal for the Muslims to construct a central mosque opposite the DHL office. You remember?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. 88. I told you, I heard what you say. I was going to take it to the head of state and President Doe, and whatever he tells me, I will get back to you. You remember?
Yeah.
I went to President Doe and presented to him the plan you have for you didn't want a radio station, you want a radio and television station. And you wanted to build your mosque, central mosque, on the street right down there opposite DHL, in that space where the children play football. They will say, Bowier? I say, yes. Do you understand Arabic?
It was on crying here. Where do you have that?
Something you want to put down here.
No, I'm brushed into a crying here.
Okay, bro. Okay, let's say crying here. He said, Bowier, do you understand Arabic? I said, no, sir. He said, when they put talking something and now you know what they're talking? You know, I never told you this before, but now this is time for my big mouth to talk. He said, when they put getting a radio station and then talking something, you will hear what they're saying? I said, no, sir. The next day you get a no taxi in town, you know, what you will do? You want to get a radio station to people who you don't know what they're talking? And you wanted to build a mosque on Broad Street? I said, man, move from here, man. Well, I didn't tell you that. I came back, I told you things are under consideration. I'm a damage control guy. I told you that things were under consideration. However, you remember that was shortly after that incident that the Liberian broadcasting system got a new leader, and that new leader was a Muslim. Do you remember? Mr. Alhaji Kuma?
Yeah.
Then you started a program on that station called Islam and You every Friday.
Yes.
Thank you very much. One of my colleagues in the cabinet, who is now high in this government, works with the foreign ministry, came to my house one Friday evening. Said, Bowier, I said, yeah, man, what you doing in this country, man? We like the way you run the Ministry of Information thing, but man, you're going too far now. I said, what happened? He said, you got my dingoes in my living room. I said, what do you mean by that? Who took my dingo in your living room? He said, you hear them making noise in the TV? You got my dingoes in my living room. And he went off talking. So I said, look, we got to have an inclusive society according to the constitution that you adopted. You remember also I brought you a book about Muslim-Christian dialogue long before the war. I left it with you when I went into the war. I came back, I just said, my friend, what my book? You said the war, carry it. I said, okay. But what I'm saying is, I've been thinking about the need for us to unite long before we started fighting. Now you ask me whether the future will be bright. It will be very bright. I wish I was not born now. I wish I could be born 20 years from now, because the future will be very bright. You could not get a radio and TV station in 1988. Today, one of the most powerful radio and TV stations in this country is owned by a Muslim right across the road. That is the station that's broadcasting this thing live to everybody. Do you see what I see? Oh, beautiful for patriots dream that see beyond the years. In 1988, what I could see is happening now. And what I see now, people who don't see will see it 2050. This country will be better. Our generation is the last messed up generation in this country. Our children will be better. They will know nothing about country and Congo. They will know nothing about foolishness. They will all beat their swords in the plowshare. They will live in peace, because we tell them the truth about those who want to divide us by sharing lies. Thank you very much.
Thank you too.
So witness,
Yes, sir.
if it's okay with you, we take a 30-minute break.
Oh, it's okay with me to take a 30-minute break, but I just want to file one protest. I mean, not a real protest, just a small protest. Yesterday when we went for the break, we came back, you said everything over. Today, everything will not be over. We got to finish this thing. Thank you very much.
30-minute break.